This is a very impromptu video. Something like this I would probably try to script out, but it's just been on my mind so much recently. It's been on my mind so much recently that I've wanted to have less of a scripted sort of argumentative essay talk about it and more of a just kind of my personal feelings on it, which may, you know, some of you may like it, some of you may not, but I do think that it's important. I think that anecdotal sort of stories like these are oftentimes just as important, if not more important, than sort of very, very, like, academic videos like that. So I just kind of want to talk for a minute, but it's about something that I personally deeply care about, which is the sort of discourse on subculture and specifically what seems to be the death of subculture happening. If you go on my Instagram, I mean, it's no secret that I'm a part of my local scene. I think there's don't want to say narrative, because narrative has an inherently negative connotation, but there is this sort of belief going around that, I mean, you've all heard the songs, right? Punk is dead, grunge is dead, you know, all these kids these days, they just make TikTok music and they don't want to, you know, actually go outside. I think there is criticisms of TikTok. In fact, I think TikTok is almost certainly been a net negative for music and the wider sort of adoption of subcultures into online spaces versus the traditionally, like, you know, in person. I mean, you can't have a subculture without an in-person space. That's why we have this sort of rise of, you know, aesthetics and core going around. I'm not gonna act like a hypocrite and say that I've never interacted with those parts of the internet and that I've never, you know, put hashtag OMG mecore, you know, in the comments of a photo, but I do think I'm already getting off topic. What I hear from the older generations up here is that the scene is dying. And while I don't disagree, I would like to offer up a sort of reason. I would like for people to think about why. I live in Seattle. I'm not shy about it. I probably should be, considering, you know, internet safety, but we're way past that. So, yeah, I live in Seattle. I'm a part of the Seattle underground music scene. I go to a lot of shows. I listen to a lot of local bands. People who aren't from up here probably don't know this, but there used to be a lot more music venues than there currently are now. How do I put this? In a world where something like loitering is a crime, where just going outside and maybe drinking or smoking in a parking lot is a crime, where the police are constantly, and I mean constantly, getting called into shows. And I think in a world where studios are more and more shutting down and the only places people really can play nowadays is bars and house shows and parks and, you know, the little venues we have, it's no wonder why, from the outside looking in, there seems to be no new music coming out of, I mean, a lot of cities, but, you know, I'm using this example already of Seattle. Instead of immediately going to this sort of generational warfare that a lot of people like to go to, I want people to just take a minute and think about how you're supposed to get found by a record label when there are no places to find. The biggest venue I can think of that isn't like what I would say is like a more polished venue, like the Showbox or, you know, the Paramount, is El Corazon. Like, really, I can't name many others that are on their level. Now that's it. There is no more Studio 7. There's no more Beth's Cafe. There's no more Studio 7. And the places we do have are constantly, and I do mean constantly, being just surrounded by fucking cops. It's hard to play a fucking show when you got a bunch of, tough guys with fucking tasers and guns showing up just to shut you down. But I think that if you actually truly dived into the subculture that we do have, you would find that major success is not the end-all be-all of punk. It was never the end goal, really, at least not to me. And I do know that it's very ironic to be saying all this with a Green Day shirt on. Believe me, I'm well aware. A lot of the people who are saying these things are also people who haven't been to a house show in probably 20 years. Maybe you think the scene is dead because you haven't participated in it since the 90s. There's a lot more scene to find if you actually go to where the scene is, but that's sort of a petty generalization that I'm gonna make. Before you get on your complaint about how kids these days don't know how to rock, maybe you should actually talk to one of the kids and see why. But that's about all I have to say.